Hey everybody, this is Don with Wizard Tower Games, and it's tonight's Tuesday night, 8 o'clock live. I got Tom Verreault from the Tabletop Tap Room. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, how are you?
I am doing well, and the reason I got Tom on here is because we're talking Star Frontiers. And
My
I figure
favorite.
if I'm a, it's exactly what it was. And if I'm going to have Star Frontiers to talk about it, I'm going to have the publisher of the number one Star Frontiers fan mag out there, Tom. This man is a walking encyclopedia of Star Frontiers. So let's get chatting.
Sure.
All right. Now, we all know that Star Frontiers was initially published by TSR of old, not the new TSR. And David Cook and Lawrence Schick are the ones who developed it, correct?
Well, they actually they developed it as a competitor to Traveler, and so they were actually developing a game more targeted towards the college age crowd. And then at the last minute, with very little turnaround time, the game was taken from them and re-edited by committee and targeted at a younger crowd. And then after that, Zeb Cook was just like, yeah, that's it. Stick a fork in me. I'm done. And never did another thing for Star Frontiers.
And this was 1980.
This was 1982 when it came out. And so it was published for all of 2 years and then canceled by Lorraine, she that shall not be named.
Ah.
The one who booted Gary out of TSR.
How you doing, local 433 Gumby? And Vic, how are you doing?
Hey, Big Vic.
Now, the funny thing is it has a basic and expanded booklet, correct?
Yes.
One is 16 pages, and the other one is like 55 or 60.
Yeah, that's about right. But if you get the hardcover reprints,
of course he has the hardcover reprints.
It's off of Drive-Thru. It's both in one volume, plus the maps, plus the Port Lorne maps are in there.
A dumb question for you. Since Drive-Thru RPG is a thing and it's a really popular thing, when you have we both have Alpha Dawn, the box set. Of course.
Right.
Now, granted, I will admit something, and I'm committing heresy with my friend here. I am more of a Gamma World kind of guy.
I deal with that.
I know that you lower yourself to deal with people like me sometimes online. I admit that. Yeah, I respect that.
RPG Grandma is actually the resident Star Frontiers fan who's worked on the magazines, who is the Gamma World. I kind of think of her as, if I got a Gamma World question, I'd run it by her. She's actually converted a lot of Gamma World creatures to Star Frontiers, and did them as a submission in the magazine.
Gotcha. Real quick, Vic, that actually is going to be my subject for next week's live. I'm going to talk about the TSR of Gary Gygax's fame and what was it really that brought the demise of that. Eric, thank you for coming on in. Much appreciated. Always happy to see my friend in here. Now, the thing is about Star Frontiers with me is it has what a lot of people call now an unconventional system because everybody is so used to D20.
Right.
You want to lay that system out real quick? Kind of explain it?
Well, it was a D100 metric-based system. I had zero interest in learning the metric system until Star Frontiers. Mm-hmm. And so it was very, very sciencey, even though it's kind of almost a little bit cassette tape sci-fi. Yeah. There's some wonkiness to the system just because it's never been updated properly. Yeah. But it's a D100, it's a roll under. So, you're taking half your attribute plus 10% for each skill level you have in a skill. So if you've got, let's say your dexterity is 60, half of that would be 30. And let's say you were second level in a shooting skill. So that would be 20% for second level. Mm-hmm. So you would have a 50% chance, and you got to roll under for shooting. And then situational modifiers would would
So just to clarify this, I would have to roll under a 50.
right. So you would have, so your to hit number, your DC would be 50, based off of your ability scores, which have a greater impact in the game than, say, in some of the D20 systems out there. And then your skill level
Okay.
that you've developed, because you're developing your skill level as you see fit. So I've got EXP, I'm spending it on this shooting skill versus robotic skill. So your character is not a level-based character, but it's a skill-based character, and you just choose to develop the skills you want to develop as you see fit for that character. And so you then establish what your DC is, but there's a host of modifiers. At this point, I think there's too many. But back in the day, we just thought, oh, this is really cool. You might invoke careful aim for an extra bonus on your shooting. And so rather than, this laser can shoot twice in a combat turn, or this gyrojet pistol can shoot 3 times in a combat turn, I'm doing careful aim. I only get the one shot, but I'm getting this bonus added to my thing. So I'm adding, I think it's 15, a plus 15. So you have a plus 50. You had to get 50 or less. We're adding a 15 for that careful aim. It's now 65. So I'm by invoking careful aim, I'm now trying to game the system. Whereas if you're unarmed and fighting space pirates, you might invoke, I'm defending. So I'm not throwing an attack, but I'm defending myself. It gives me a plus, it gives me a 20% bonus against their attack. So, if they had a, to hit chance of 45, let's say they're, it's an early game pirate where you've not, he's not scaled for you having advanced. He's not going to have a great to hit. It could be 35, it could be 45 for him to hit you. You might just go, look, I'm not even armed, so defending. And and he's trying to whack you with a sword and you're defending, you're subtracting 20. So there was a lot of situational modifiers you can modify the game in favor.
Yeah. Well, and Vic, we're going to touch on that a little bit here shortly, but I think that part of the appeal of Star Frontiers early on was kind of like all the RPGs back then. I mean, let's face it, it was all new, and now how many sci-fi based role-playing games are there out there? Hell, Wizard Tower Games is developing Interstellar. So even we've jumped on and trying to make something unique and new. Back then it was easy. I mean, that was what it was back then. I mean, when TSR put out a sci-fi based game, and for those of you who aren't familiar with this part, is Star Frontiers and Gamma World were both TSR's sci-fi games. Gamma World was more of a post-apocalyptic, bad things have happened in the whole,
Mad Max Road Warrior, science.
Absolutely. But what I thought was unique about Star Frontiers that I liked about it, and this is one of the things that I really think that, and we're going to get into talking about a reboot here shortly, is you got Star Frontiers, and I had I think it was like 17. What was it? To like 17 different what do you call it? Systems that you could, and so each one was really unique. I think that a hardcover companion book for a reboot, if a reboot was ever made, would have been something real interesting. Really interesting.
We tried to organize for the 40th anniversary because last year was the 40th anniversary. August last year was the 40th anniversary. And so we're now it's now 41 years old. We attempted to put together a cabal of people, me being one of the most prolific writers, Tom Stevens being the then present editor of the Frontier Explorer and a former editor of the Star Frontiers, the original Star Frontiersman. There was another vlogger, his name just totally brain farts me right now, who actually had some weight, some Veritas that his name brought. And then I recruited my current assistant editor, Oscar Rios of Golden Goblin Games. And I promoted Eric to the group, one, because he's a huge Star Frontiers fan, but also because Golden Goblin Games has a license for Cthulhu Invictus. And so they have the license to produce the material for Cthulhu Invictus. And so he's consistently run a Kickstarter and then delivered, and run the Kickstarter and then delivered a product. And so he brought all of that experience as a publisher, as a small press publisher, Golden Goblin Games. As just a little shout out for him. And so if you like Cthulhu at all, please check out Golden Goblin Games. Check out their Cthulhu Invictus, ancient Rome and Cthulhu. I mean, what's not to like? We all like the Romans. And if you like Cthulhu at all, I mean, it's just it's
definitely a weird pairing.
Yeah, I mean,
but then again, anything Cthulhu.
Well, it's not like you're going to shoot the Great Cthulhu with a pistol and get anywhere doing that. Mm-hmm. So it's irrelevant of the system, irrelevant of the time period. It doesn't matter if you got a laser or a 38 caliber revolver. Yeah. Or you've got a Roman gladius. Mm-hmm. It really it doesn't matter what the technology is. It's the game, and I like that time period. I am a big fan of that time period historically. So, anyway, we put this cabal together, and we went to WotC, and they shot us down. We said, "Hey, we want to do this. We'd like to do a Kickstarter to do this." And they didn't want any of it. And then right on the heels of that, or at the same time, actually, I think it was the same time, there was this other company out there that was squatting on trademarks. Mm-hmm. And they claimed the Star Frontiers trademark, and they said, it's ours, it belongs to us. Mm-hmm. And then because of that little fly in the ointment, I think is probably at least 30% of why WotC told us no.
Yeah, because historically, I personally know of at least one other small, a one-man operation, Jason Elliott from Solarian Games. He got Wizards to work with him, or maybe it's a bad way to put it, but he got Wizards to, kiss the ring, bless the project, let him use Merle Rasmussen's game of Top Secret.
Well, and I could be wrong on this, and if Jason Elliott was out there in the audience, he should speak up. But I believe that Top Secret is generic enough that when they made it Top Secret New World Order, they kind of was skirting the trademark.
But the thing is, but let's also be honest. Not be honest, wrong way to put it, but I guess knowing these large companies like Wizards of the Coast and how protective they are of their IP, if they had a problem with it, I believe Elliott would have got a cease and desist. And by Elliott not getting a cease and desist, maybe the better way to put it was Wizards of the Coast gave their tacit implied consent by not taking any action over it, because
he at that time was using the TSR name. He was TSR. I don't know if we should call it 2.0. He was actually.
That's a fair thing. Really, there's been three
and they never
of it.
They never considered that pissing in their Wheaties.
No, but also, from what I've heard, and again, my information could be flawed, is, I heard that Jason reached out to WotC and just said, "Hey," and I think what I guess my point I was trying to get at was this whole thing was to me is very, very odd how I believe Wizards of the Coast, when it comes to IP, that they're not really doing much with. I mean, yeah, they've got it on drive through. It's in the corner. It's doing nothing. It gives them a little bit of money, but it's literally, to me and you, it's the equivalent of, walking by a penny in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Hardly want to bend down and pick it up,
Well, somebody is out there doing Gangbusters BX,
Yes.
which clearly looks like it's bojacking off the back of the original Gangbusters.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, but that's just it. I mean, so we had Jason Elliott with TSR 2.0, and I just really wonder how much Wizards of the Coast was beginning to walk down the path of going, as long as they do it right, as long as they do it respectfully, and as long as it doesn't violate the terms of, blunk this agreement. Let's just say, some crazy 180-page agreement,
right.
whatever, that they
Well,
throw out to somebody, they would be maybe don't have a problem with it. But then all of a sudden,
going back to like 2006, I believe, was Timothy Norris got he got a fan license to do optical scans of all the original material, and offer that for free. Couldn't make any money on it, but he could. So he did optical scans of all the Star Frontiers modules and rules, and he had these up on his under this fan license to offer these for free. Then Bill Logan, in that time period, a little bit after that license, got a license to do digitally remastered. Basically, it was just like a restating and different layout, not an optical scan,
yeah,
but like all right, well, let's say this way. All right, we'll use this piece of art.
he basically took existing material and
Reformatted it, and so he had the license to do the digitally remastered, and so those were then up for free. And he also had a license to do the Star Frontiersman, and he envisioned starting a fan revival.
Tom, real quick, for those who don't know, what is the Star Frontiersman?
Oh, Star Frontiersman was the original fan magazine, and that was Bill Logan's genius. And so if you see him poking around, and I do from time to time, if you're a Star Frontiers fan, you owe him a thank you, because he really envisioned a possible revival. Join the revival, I think, was one of the slogans they put on the Star Frontiersman back then. And so he kicked that off, and that's where I came into the story. Was injured and laying on the couch and out of work, and noticing, what is this? Star Frontiersman? Yeah. Well, I remember this game. I love this game, and so that's, and I'm looking. There's six issues, and they had an irregular publishing schedule. And I was like, when's another issue coming out? When's another issue coming out? And then I just started writing to help get another issue to come out. So
now you yourself run a fan mag.
I run the Star Frontiersman Volume 2.
Okay. And Volume 2 is basically the same thing as saying Star Frontiers, the Star Frontiersman 2.0.
Yeah. Well, Tom Stevens and I had we'd had some creative disagreements with the editor who was running the Star Frontiersman at one time. And so we just said, look, let's just start our own magazine. I don't think the community is going to complain, because people had wanted to, why don't you produce every month? And, I'm doing a quarterly magazine now, and I'm telling you,
tough.
Wow, that would be really tough. But I didn't think that the fans would mind getting extra content. And so we started the Frontier Explorer, and that was yet another fan license from WotC.
Well, you mentioned about quarterly. People don't realize how much work goes into a magazine, because I about a year and a half ago had this really, what I thought was a brilliant idea, and it was actually brilliantly stupid of me. Thank God I didn't do it. Is doing a gamer magazine called RP Gamer, RPG game, RP Gamer. And I thought about doing RP Gamer, and I thought quarterly. We'll do quarterly. I'll do it where it's manageable. And sitting down with Tim Kask a few times, because Tim is a boatload of knowledge, and especially on magazines, because of Dungeon and because of Dragon magazine. Like he told me, he goes, "You just ain't gonna be able to sustain it, man. There's just no way to sustain, even if you have material to put into it. The problem is getting it published and out there to people who want a physical copy, because advertising these days works totally different. Back in the 70s and 80s, before the big crash of the early 80s, people advertised in magazines. If you wanted word out about your new Star Frontiers game, you put it in a magazine.
If you
Now
go
people
back to the 80s, see, little one-man operations are advertising in Dragon magazine. You look at some of those ads, and I'm looking at it going, that's some guy in his house.
Yeah.
Running that little business.
Because it was affordable to advertise that way.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you have a magazine subscription, or an amount of subscription, but when you have a magazine that has as many subscribers as Dragon had at its peak, you can really dedicate large amounts. I mean, it's like magazines sadly people just don't operate like that anymore. It's like with newspapers. I remember growing up, my mom every morning, my mom was a morning person. She'd be up like at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'd walk in, and there's my mom sitting at the kitchen table. I'd get up for school, and she'd be sitting there smoking a cigarette, coffee cup in front of her, and she'd have a thing of London Times reading it. And it's like, now
so it's a different beast. And but part of why I was reciting a little bit of the history of these different fan licenses was that the license that Tom Stevens got to produce the Frontier Explorer, it had different terms. I mean, the terms that Timothy Norris had versus what Bill Logan had.
Such as?
The Star Frontiersman license let you produce those digitally remastered, produce a fan magazine. And so that was great. When we got our license for the Frontier Explorer, we were explicitly excluded from producing a module. And
by who?
By WotC.
Really?
Even
for free.
Yeah, it was one of the things. We were not allowed to produce a module. So what I did was I said, all right, challenge accepted. Somebody hold my beer. And so for the first 3 issues of the Frontier Explorer, I wrote a serial where you had a little piece of the module in A, a little piece in B.
Gotcha.
And I only did it that one time, and then kind of lost interest. But it was just like, all right, challenge accepted. I'll find a way around this.
But I guess talking like this is interesting to me because it opens up many more questions. And I don't mean to interrupt you. Sure. If I'm interrupting you, I'm not doing it to be rude. You're just breaking into something that really strikes a chord with me. All right, so you've got these other guys doing, as an example, they're making material and they give it away for free, and WotC has no problem with that.
Right.
But you want to go ahead and you want to put out in your free magazine, you want to put out a module that basically would be by proxy free, and WotC says no. Now, since looking at that, Wizards of the Coast has not done anything. Wizards of the Coast has not announced, nor have they done anything new with Star Frontiers. Sure. So what, as somebody who's really into the back end of this, and a lot of the politics that I don't, why, in your opinion, would Wizards of the Coast not want you to put even a free module in the magazine?
I don't know. But what's even funnier? This will blow your mind. Tom got permission to produce I think it was a 25th anniversary patch. So he produced a physical patch for Star Frontiers for the 25th anniversary and sold them. Now, I don't think he was allowed to sell it for a profit, but he produced them, and then he was, you could say, all right, I'll take 2, and you'd send him the money and he'd mail it to you. And then he got permission to do it again for the 30th anniversary and the 35th anniversary. But when all this crap was going on with the bankrupt game company there that wanted to squat on Star Frontiers,
we'll just call it 3.0.
Yeah. So yeah, new 3.0. That at that point, Watsy said, no, you can't do a 40th anniversary patch, which kind of really pissed me off. Frank.
Well, I think in defense of Watsy,
Yeah.
I have to say one thing about this is
Well, I
I
wasn't mad
think
at them. I was mad at the
yeah,
Joker.
but I'm talking about I just think in general, we live in a world where, especially now, bad press can really become bad press, and it can become bad press really fast. I mean, look at the changes they're making now, like with Appendix E. Just the minor change going that the DM, if he makes or she makes a change, as long as it's consistent, they're now saying as long as the table agrees to it. I mean, the
100%
changes there,
agreement. Yeah.
yeah,
It franchises the
yeah.
DM and
But I think one of the problems here is that they are taking hits on so many fronts. The whole 3.0 thing has not helped at all, one bit, but also I think the aspect of you have a large game company, and this is what mystifies me. This is what I don't get is they're not doing nothing with it really. I mean, yeah, they're selling it on Drive Through RPG. Yeah, and I believe honestly they're just having it there because it keeps the presence alive and it keeps their trademarks alive. Especially now, they're going to make sure that they keep that stuff taken care of.
well, yeah, that the drive-through thing began in 2018 with Evil Hat squatting on the trademark. Evil Hat saw the Star
I've heard
Frontier
about that.
trademark was not had not been renewed, and so they started squatting on it. They grabbed it. I think they legitimately grabbed it, and they're like, "Well, we're producing Star Frontiers." And Watsy said, "Oh, hold on a minute." And all of a sudden, and we didn't realize what was coming, but all of a sudden, all the Star Frontiers material was available on drive-through, and that's when I got my my hardcovers, and I was like, I was so excited. Ooh, hardcovers. And then the cease and desist letters came out from Watsy for all the fan licenses that were giving away
Yeah.
the optical scans, the digital, because you can't compete with them. Those things were competing with them selling on drive-through.
Well, yeah.
Even though they make piss all for profit on drive-through, for it, they're not making a lot of money on it.
But it
it's
was
a drop in the
still,
bucket compared to D&D.
but it was competing with their
But they
product
still
that
had
they're
to do
selling.
the cease and desist, and wisely, Evil Hat said, and they saw that Watsy was going to defend they said, yeah, stick a fork in us, we're done. We're not getting into that type of an expense.
Well, I think this is one of the problems of the cease and desist letter. When you get a C&D and you look at it, you got to look at it, and this is my opinion only, but you have to look at it in the aspect of, all right, is this a C&D from somebody who's sending it because they're trying to intimidate you? Or is this from somebody who not only has the financial ability to go through with what they're threatening you, but they're known to do it?
You also have to ask yourself, are they in the right? I mean,
but still, even if they're in the wrong, if they got the money to go after you,
oh yeah,
is what you're making off of what they're wanting you to stop making. Like, let's say I'm making this pen.
Yeah.
And the maker of this pen sends me a C&D because I'm making a copy of it. Am I really making enough off of this pen to really invest in? And actually 3.0 has been a very good example of how long has new TSR been in the courts now with Watsy? A year and a half now, formally.
Year and a half, 2 years.
December.
I think it's 2 years.
2 years. 2 years. So you look at 2 years, and in Watsy's own declarations, they have almost $800,000 in legal fees alone into this.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to really be, if you're on the receiving end of the C&D from any company, and they have those type of resources where they can dump what's equivalent to basically $1 million into something, you have to really take a look at the fact that am I really making what it's worth. Now, if I sent you a C&D, you were making something, it would be a battle of two basic income levels that are close. You know, it would be just basically us in a ring, bop, 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 bop. But if I get a C&D from, Wizards of the Coast or Disney or Lucasfilms or something like that, sorry, buddy, old Don's gonna my happy bald ass is gonna be tapping the mat because I ain't having nothing to do with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, also you have to there's the cost benefit analysis of, is this worth it? And part of the problem with new 3.0 company that we're not naming is that the CEO of that company, before it went bankrupt, used to brag that he would sue people because they didn't have the money to defend it. And so it was really about being a bully and pushing them around in court. And so I looked at that, and all those threats that came down the pike at me were, you're going to get sued. You're going to be sued. Papers are going in the mail. I blew that off. I said, you know what? That's just a bully. And if he does bring it, fine. He needs somebody to stand up to him. And I don't care what I got to sell. If I got to sell everything in the attic, everything in the basement, sell the house, sell the car, and, live in a cardboard box, I'm going to fight this guy. Because, I just looked at it as, I'm not bending to a bully. I'm not going to bend over for a bully.
Yeah. And
now, if WotC was a bully and WotC, said, listen, there's no way I could fight WotC, but
no,
this guy, with more and more states passing legislation concerning this type of litigation to just bully people, these slap laws,
with these slap laws and such.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's like, all right, there's a realization that you've got big companies that use this kind of litigation to push people around. And so thankfully, like our favorite bartender, New York State passed this very type of litigation that applies to his very case. And at some point, that legislation is going to kick in for him. And he's going to be owed a lot of money. Yeah. And
but sadly, this is one of the really bad things. Is it's like anything in life, owing and paying can be two different things. But I guess at the end of the day, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Well, the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum actually is a party to the lawsuit suing him.
Yeah.
So he could put a lien on that property.
Yeah, it's possible. But the thing is, though, I mean, I guess getting back to the important topic at hand, the fun topic, so, the thing I think that I would love to see Wizards of the Coast, and this is something I don't understand why they haven't done yet, is like at least take these older editions. And I was hoping they were going to do this, and maybe they still will this coming year with the 50th happening, is like have like anniversary editions, like where they take like Monster Manual 1, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, and they put it into one 580 some odd page special edition hardcover, those rules, you know what I mean? But maybe in color this time and do special things. Star Frontiers, can you imagine them putting out a Alpha Dawn Star Frontiers box set?
I could.
I'm not saying I would. I can't imagine. But could you imagine? I think it would be financially worthwhile to them.
Well, we were going to, like we came with a solid cabal of 4 people proposing a 40th anniversary edition of the rules. We were going to produce it. You still own the IP. We'll even pack into the whole process some profit for you. I mean, they shut us down. And part of the fly in the ointment was the new TSR, the new 3.0 BS.
Yeah.
That did that, because that would have that Kickstarter, I think, would have done well.
Oh, I think any. I mean, I think, yeah, I think a Kickstarter with a revamped. I think a Kickstarter with a licensed module, even if you did a Kickstarter and said we have a license from WotC, this is going to be Star Frontiers, yada yada yada, or a star system setting, with the 17 original systems but with expanded content and all that.
Yeah.
You
Well, one of the things I'm working on with the magazine is I've started a Patreon, and Patreons function a little different than Kickstarters because people we just like what you're doing and we just want to donate to it, and that's permissible. It's permissible to have a tip cup. It's so. One of the things I'm doing is because one of the discussions that happens in the Star Frontiers community is, wouldn't it be awesome to have a Star Frontiers monster manual? Wouldn't it be awesome to have an ultimate equipment guide? Because even though you've got the canon game and modules, they're over here, you now have 25 issues of the Star Frontiersman, the original run. You have 35 issues of the Frontier Explorer fan magazine. And now I have produced 4 issues of the Star Frontiersman Volume 2. You've got a lot of content out there created by the fans. And
can't that be utilized under a license, though, like the OGL?
Well, yeah, but the OGL is more like about D20, and most Star Frontiers fans have an allergy to D20.
I was just getting ready to get into that. That would be, though, the caveat.
So, I did a spreadsheet of all these Star Frontiers characters. Now we've got about 100 and I forget my numbers, but it's like 100 and something of the IP that belongs to WotC, IP critters. But my spreadsheet goes like 400 creatures. Those are fan creations. That's some monster manual.
How many?
400 plus.
Oh, and that's an ultimate monster manual.
Yeah. So we're actually working on a monster manual as a Patreon reward to reward the patrons. And that one will include the IP creatures because, again, this is just donating to it. We're not selling it. But eventually, like a year down the road, we will strip out all the IP and do a Star Frontiersman presents this, Star Frontiersman, field guide to the frontier. And it'll be about 380, creatures that, have been created by fans. And we'll make sure that the presentation is a, kind of like how Stars Without Number didn't use the OGL. They just rewrote everything because, make sure that the rules presentations in it are not under anything, it's all completely rewritten. And so we'll eventually do, but it'll lack the IP creatures, but it'll still be a good print on demand PDF that you can get on drive-through. And we'll get that thing going.
Well, Vic says that he thinks that they're going to do one of 3 things. They're either going to do an online game, which I think, real quick, with the route that they're taking, I think an online version of it would be something that I would say yes more aptly. But the problem, Vic, with that is, and pop in here, Tom, if you feel a need. The problem with doing an online version of Star Frontiers is they would literally have to. That's a lot of code to write. They'd have to create a completely different, for lack of a better term, world, universe, website, dedicated, locate server, if you will, because when you look at something like their online gaming for D&D right now, that's got a lot of back end stuff supporting it. And in order to do a Star Frontiers version, you have to do the same thing. But
if they did a game based off of strictly their IP,
yeah,
it'd be very thin. It would
Yeah,
be a
there's not a lot of stuff out there with Star Frontiers. It's not a lot. It's
it
like
would
demo
be
world.
very, because you have a list, you have an astrographic catalog. Here's the star, here's the planet, and some codes telling you about population. And but over the years, all this revival that's gone on, all the fans writing stuff has created this depth of material that that's not theirs. That that's it's not mine. It's that fans. That fan wrote that. So they could steal it, and that fan's probably not going to sue them. But there's all this material that has been it's fan canon that's just added to the setting, and it's not just willy nilly added. It's fans that have said, all right, here's what we know about the canon. So if this is this way, we would expect this over here to be this way. And so the fans, there's been some fan creations that are a little bit, I kind of look at it and go, yeah, we're not using that in my version of the setting.
Mm-hmm.
But those things are few and far between. The fans have been very, very good at what they've created. There's only been a few things where I've been, like I did a spreadsheet for an Ultimate Equipment catalog. There was about, I would say about a half dozen items that I would like. It's either overpowered, it completely duplicates something else, or this has no relationship to anything in the rules, the way it's presented. And it's just too hard to edit it. So I'm like, I'm going to judiciously leave out about 6 items out of that were fan creations out of an Ultimate Equipment guide. It's going to be a curated thing because I just can't, I don't know what to do with.
Have you ever thought about approaching Wizards with it again?
Well, I suppose I could, but I think the new 3.0 fiasco needs to be resolved.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I can see that.
Anything from anybody.
Well, and I think they're going to have to more broadly. I mean, they're already been messing with the OGL a lot. They're trying to find that sweet spot. It blew up in their face very early on with their original idea, which I don't believe that was a. This is our conceptualization. I believe this was our license, and they found out that the gaming public was not going to go ahead and just embrace it warmly. So, but you said something interesting a few minutes ago. You said when I asked you about what wouldn't fall under the existing OGL license, you said that's more geared to D20. I wonder if, and I'm curious about this, is if someone approached them and just said, we'd be willing to go under your current OGL terms, your current licensing terms, but for the sake of this agreement, we'll switch everything from D20 out to D100 where it applies, and we're willing to follow all the rules associated with it because.
Well, I don't personally, for myself, I don't trust them.
Well,
and I think what Paizo's done recently by stripping anything D&D related out of their
products. Look, come on, let's look at Paizo here for a minute. Paizo can do that because Paizo has enjoyed and become profitable because of D&D. Yes. So they have built that base up behind them. So now when they go, well, we're going to strip out D&D, okay, it doesn't affect them any because now their own IP has kind of superseded D&D.
But by the same token, you look at somebody, like Stars Without Number. He didn't use the OGL. He didn't. He just, hey, look, the Supreme Court says you can't copyright games mechanics. He just did a fresh presentation, and so he has just chugged along. I love Stars Without Numbers presentation. I think those rules are very elegant. Just never found a group to play them with. But so I think that would be the route to go. Just all right. Let's look at let's file the serial numbers off of Star Frontiers, and fix the things that we all recognize are a little bit wonky or a little bit dated with the rules, and do a fresh presentation. Call it Frontiers Without Number, if you will.
But then also you'd have to basically take a spreadsheet and take a look, and you'd have to really dig into the rules, all the modules, everything, and kind of pull out all the terms and everything that are uniquely to Star Frontiers, because that's the IP that's covered under their trademarks.
I might know
So
somebody who's a big enough Star Frontiers fan who could probably handle that.
yeah, and then once you get that core sheet, not saying you can't use, let's just say you can't use, well, like strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma. I can use that in my game. That's
Yeah.
not their IP. They tried it, but it didn't work. But you can use other terms they've used that are unique, but you can't use them in the same context. Like,
Right.
yeah, you get my point. So,
Yeah. So
but,
we would not have primary skill area. We'll just, we'll have, we want to PSAs, we'll have something else. It'll be, proficiency areas.
But tell me this, then. Star Frontiers, it's been 41 years.
Yeah.
Star Frontiers still has that core base out there. You tell me, in your opinion, why? What is it about Star Frontiers that really has? Because you don't hear people talking about the Indiana Jones role-playing game, or you hear Star Frontiers. In fact, you don't even really get a lot of people talking about Gamma World that I see.
All right.
Tell me, what is it about Star Frontiers that really you think has really just made it something that people just,
Well, I think it's multifaceted. I think that there was a group of us that played it, and at some point in our 30s and 40s, we got a little nostalgic. I was injured, out of work, couldn't work, had a back injury, and so it's watch Judge Judy and Court TV, or you get on the internet and you Google a little bit, and so I'm just kind of messing around the internet, and I just Star Frontiers. Yeah. I remember this game, so I think there's a little bit of nostalgic that at some point brings people back. A little bit of nostalgia brings you back in your late 30s, 40s, 50s. And so I think the solid core of the community is that. It's people that played the game, have fond memories of it, loved it. Some of them have continued to play the game through the decades, been fans. So I think that's one element of it. I think that you've got out there in the world, you've got a lot of fantasy freaks, if I can call them that. I'm one of them.
Yeah, I don't take offense to that.
But back in the 70s, you got your you got your sci-fi fix for a long time. It was reruns of Star Trek, and a few Jason the Star Command on Saturday morning. I remember when they had Duhan, Scotty on Jason the Star Command. I was like, as a kid. And then all of a sudden they wrote him out of Star Command. Oh, well, they're doing a new Star Trek movie. All right, I guess I'm okay with that, because, desperate to have some sci-fi. And, we got a little bit of Battlestar Galactica for a period of time. And, and so it was, you were always hungry for it. You're just hungry for this thing. And of course, Star Wars kind of started to turn that whole thing around. Yeah. And so I think there's this hunger and desire for sci-fi. Fantasy is the 900-pound gorilla, sure. But I think there's enough people out there who are just hungry for some sci-fi. Traveler was that for a lot of people, and so people who are hardcore Traveler fans kind of look at Star Frontiers, and I think they look down their nose maybe a little bit, maybe. I don't know.
I think you're right.
But, so Traveler scratched that itch for a lot of people, but for me, I didn't encounter Traveler. My bookstore carried stuff from TSR, TSR Inc., the legitimate TSR.
Yeah.
And that's where I went to get my Dragon magazines every month. I wanted to pick up a drag. I I never seemed to have the money to get a subscription, but I was always down there with some lawnmower money, getting the most recent Dragon and Space Gamer from
Oh, that boy! Wow, Space Gamer.
Space Gamer, Fantasy Gamer,
Boy,
from Steve
yeah,
Jackson Games.
yeah. You're talking a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and so getting these things, they just didn't carry Traveler. They carried Steve Jackson Games. They carried TSR.
But see, that was back in the day where, bookshops and game shops and hobby shops, they would cater to a certain flavor of the day. Sort of like restaurants. Some do Coke products, some sell Pepsi products.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about all of this with me is that you have something that people have a passion for, and they have a passion, and there's people out there like us that says, listen, I'm happy to scratch the itch. I'm happy to provide product, and listen, I'll follow your rules. I'll sign an agreement and I'll abide by your terms, but they just don't want to play. It's like,
I just want to scratch. I had a school guidance counselor that at the end of the school year wrote his vision for all of the kids that he was dealing with. And for me, he wrote that I would become an editor of Dragon magazine. And I never forgot that. And, and then I, got busy with life and went off in college and this, that, and the other thing. And when I finally came back to it, Dragon magazine was kind of no more.
Yeah.
So I got involved with the Star Frontiers fan magazine, and it scratched that itch, and it was living the dream. And I'm like, man, I'm living my 12-year-old dream, and that made me love the fan magazine even more. That just, then there were times where I was like, I remember when I was going through a divorce and I was thinking, I'm going to just step away from, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I was driving Uber and I would take a break at Dunkin' Donuts with a cup of coffee, and I'd be writing a fan magazine article on my phone because I had an idea and I had to get it on paper, digital paper. And so I'm on the phone there with just my thumbs typing away, writing a whole article, and then trying to edit it on that little tiny screen and then submit it to the magazine. And so even though I had told everybody, I says, I'm walking away. I got too much going on. I'm fighting a divorce. I'm moving. This is going on. I'm almost living out of my car. It was just ugly. Yeah. I couldn't leave it. I just could not walk away.
Well, but then there you go. That's why you're considered a fan. I mean, you are really a fan of the genre and of the game itself. I mean, Vic just says, well, this is a good idea. And Vic, we're going to talk about this next week because I'm going to get into what I feel is some of the reasons why TSR failed. And this actually touches some of it. But, Vic mentions about when if TSR didn't produce the Buck Rogers Nightmare. I think that one of the differences between when you look at this is early on, not early on, but I think in the years leading up to the demise of TSR Original, I think Gary Gygax his idea was in the right path where let's get our brand out there. Let's get our name on everything. Let's manipulate and let's really milk, all these, because Buck Rogers in the 25th century was like an uber popular TV show at the time, or it's just at the tail end of it of being uber popular.
Actually, that was Lorraine Williams. And
Lorraine Williams that went. Lorraine Williams is the one who did the Buck Rogers.
Lorraine Williams' family is the Dill family, and they owned the IP to Buck Rogers.
Oh, that's right. Yep, you're right.
The reason the Buck Rogers game failed, I became a little bit of a student of this, is that she came in, she said, all right, look, I want this because she actually cut a deal with herself as the CEO of TSR to license from her family the Buck Rogers thing, and that the deal that she cut was that TSR would pay her and her family for every product printed, not every product sold. and then as CEO, she dictated new, and so they put out source book after source book. If you go check out the Buck Rogers line, it's super broad. It's like,
Oh yeah,
the game didn't sell, and how did they produce this many games? Well, because
her
she just
passion
ordered it,
project. Yeah,
because the money went to her, and so they had Buck Rogers products sitting on warehouse shelves that went to the landfill. They
yeah.
had Buck Rogers products. I have some right
Oh
here.
wait a minute. I'll bet you then how she licensed it was. Oh, cool. Yeah, she bet you did a license where it wasn't based on sales; it was based on product produced.
Right. And so they just kept producing because it was her thing. And so, this is actually this is the Sathar fighter, and it was
Yeah,
never produced for Star
yeah.
Frontiers. And they just used this in the Buck Rogers game. And when I discovered these fighters existed, I bought them up from a school supply place that had thousands of them. I now have about 3,000 of these because I misunderstood, and they were so cheap. I didn't think I was getting many. So I was like, let's double the order. And it came in a box, and I'm like, I got 3,000. I have 3,000 Sathar fighters. It's insane. So these are actually based for me to paint up. But so, these things were out there. These ended up at a school supply warehouse. The RPG products largely ended up in a landfill. It just didn't sell, and it was the Buck Rogers RPG was based off of the cartoon, the
Yeah.
newspaper cartoon strip
Sure. Yeah.
from 40, 50 years ago. And nobody knew that. But at the same time, they were licensing a Buck Rogers TV show. It just did not intersect and gel. It just did not translate.
It was poorly. It was kind of poorly. The idea was there. It just was executed for the wrong reasons, I think. And
The TV show has no relationship to the actual setting that was produced by TSR.
Yeah.
None at all.
Yeah.
So it was a bomb. And I've actually read enough reviews of the game that the game was not well written. That if you
Oh no, I have a copy of it. It is very, very poorly written. It
like one class will excel over all the others. It's nothing's
Yeah.
balanced.
It was as if they sat down, they wrote the bones of the game, and instead of play testing, they said, let's go to production.
Yeah, she was famous for not wanting any play. I'm not paying people to play no games.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was famous for that. So yeah, I believe that game had no play testing.
Yeah. There's other individuals who have that theory too that I've worked with in the past, and it just never works out.
So yeah, so it was a bomb, and I just think that there was enough of classic sci-fi like Star Trek and enough of Star Wars, because Brian Bloom said to Gary Gygax when they walked out of a matinee of Star Wars that he looked at Gygax and said that movie is going to make Traveler a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the impetus for Star Frontiers being brought to market. And so, even in Star Frontiers, we have a Jabba the Hutt. Okay, in Star Frontiers, in the Dramune 1 module, there is a fat Dralocyte gangster, and you look at the artwork and you're like, that's Jabba the Hutt. Well, and we have a lightsaber. We've got a sonic sword. It's not a lightsaber, but you had to have something, and so there was enough that people were like, yeah, I can play I can play what has been inflaming my imagination on the big screen. And that was cool.
And the funny thing is, when you look at the early, like Star Wars, when you look at the early reviews of Star Wars, people said it was a shit show. It was a horrible movie. It was horrible sci-fi. What is this abomination? Very early on. And I actually have somewhere on my computer, I have the Siskel and Ebert review of Star Wars. And it's hilarious. Listen, watching these two guys. Oh, boy, did they get it wrong.
Yeah. Because it was so, I mean, Alien scared the ever-loving crap out of me.
As a kid? Oh, yeah.
But I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then here comes Star Wars. It doesn't scare the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah,
And the monsters were just like, monsters in Star Wars was not like Alien was like, oh shit. Star Wars were like, oh, those are cool.
Yeah. I don't know if you hear that in the background.
You don't hear nothing in the background.
My dog I have an omnidirectional mic right now, and I don't know what setting it's on. And the dog is snoring, and it sounds like a buzzsaw.
Nope, don't hear your dog at all.
All right, well then I got it on a good setting. We're not picking up the dog. He's the bane of my existence when I'm recording.
Good one, Hand of Doom. You see that sound sword, not as random or clumsy as a gyrojet pistol.
Yeah. I mean, we looked at the technology and was like, yeah, we knew they could not have lightsabers, but we were like, sonic swords. Oh yeah, this is, and they were expensive and you couldn't get it right away and you wanted it. And if you were fighting a space pirate and you took him out and he had a sonic knife or a sonic sword, you were looting the body. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It was not about being a murder hobo. It was about, I need that sword.
I am actually, seeing me, I'm making some notes, some inspiration for next week. I'm just jotting down a couple small things for touching next week.
And the other thing we had is the hollow screen. If you remember the Predator,
yeah.
And the Predator with the hollow screen in Star Frontier's Alpha Dawn, as it's presented, works pretty much like the Predator's holographic screen. And so there were so many things, to me, it really hit a sweet spot of I could play any of these sci-fi properties that I'm seeing that's inflaming my imagination as a kid. And, even today I take Star Frontiers. I've done, Port Lawrence CSI. We do police procedural, solving the mysteries. I've played horror games. I've seen people play horror games, military games, space battles. I mean, this is such a rich system that you can just move it in any, any manner. I mean, where is it? I was working on a video today for this product, Teratogenicon. And it's about producing creatures for any RPG system.
Okay.
But it's really geared towards fantasy. But I was looking at this one list here, and so it's going down to the D100 table of aberration, beast, celestial, and I'm thinking, all right, I can think of a couple of fan creations in Star Frontiers in the fan magazines that would qualify as an aberration. So I could use this book for Star Frontiers, and beasts, that's animals, celestials. I can't think of anything that would qualify as a celestial Star Frontiers, but I can think of things that qualify as celestials in sci-fi products. So why not? Why not? I mean, Battlestar Galactica had things that really did qualify as celestials.
Yes, they did.
Constructs, you would immediately go to robots, but in the Trouble on Janus convention module from 1987, there is a creature in there that really functions like these golem constructs.
Yeah.
And nobody ever went, oh, you're adding a fantasy creature. No, nobody ever said boo about it. There's dragons in Star Frontiers.
Yeah. But the thing is, in sci-fi and thus in Star Frontiers, one of the nice things about it is, like, there's so many crossovers between sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, they really intermingle so easily, the two genres. I mean,
everything in here except for giants.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
But giants could also be some type of new alien species. I mean, you can make it. Again, going back to the basic premise, and one of the reasons why I really think role-playing games became so popular is because they were one of the first games out there where you can make it your way. Yes, there's rules, but those rules even can be modified and changed. Just be consistent, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well, even as I was thinking about like the category for demons in here for fiends,
mhm.
I was thinking of the Cowboys versus Aliens movie,
Oh
and,
yeah,
and the aliens in that. Yeah, I know. I have one, honey. Thank you. She was handing me a cough drop. Um, the aliens in that act like fiends.
mhm.
They very much act like a demon or a fiend, and they have no personality. So even in that sci-fi property, you still had your demons, and I loved that movie. And I thought, boy, that would have been a great game with all the player characters being Boot Hill cowboys, and
Yeah.
you know, so
You know, at the end of the day, I mean, I think, and we're already at an hour now here. So, you said something I think might be a good cut here, and that is, you were kind of getting into, you know, that's the appeal of sci-fi, but also that's what makes Star Frontiers such an appealing thing for 41 years. It is the fact that it strikes chords with us. There's so many other things as 55-year-old man turned 56 in a month. I look back at like, and it brings me joyful memories thinking of Aliens and thinking of the Buck Rogers TV show and Battlestar Galactica, and as a model maker on the side, I can attest people don't hire me to make modern battle tanks. I build Star Trek, I build Battlestar Galactica, I build Lost in Space, and it's because of
Star
these
Wars.
collectors. Yeah, they go ahead and they just it's just something that brings joy to us, and I really do hope um that Wizards of the Coast one day soon realizes that they have something on their hands that if they just loosen the reins on a little bit, could bring a lot of joy to a lot of people, but also by proxy, then bring more people into the gaming fold and looking at Wizards of the Coast products. I mean, and
Well, I will give you the answer for why is there a Star Frontiers community,
sure.
and I think it's that the Star Frontiers community had websites and forums to gel around,
Yep.
but those things change over time. But you had a fan magazine that brought people together,
Mhm.
and I think it's kind of the fan magazine in some ways is what Peter Jackson did for the Lord of the Rings community,
Yeah.
having Peter Jackson movies to gel around and to consume and interact with and feed upon, fed that community. And
Mhm.
so now you have fans, have a community of fans that's even bigger today than it was.
Oh, agreed.
Okay, so having that thing that, boy, that'd be really great if we had a Star Frontiers movie. Peter Jackson doing the Star Frontiers trilogy. That would be,
Oh, that'd be really cool. I'd love to see a movie. I'd love to see one movie, just a movie.
yeah. Well, we would own the DVDs and we'd watch them all the time.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
but having something that brings the community together. And in the case of Star Frontiers, I think the fan magazine gave a place for the revival. In the case of Lord of the Rings, it was the movies. It was Peter Jackson in those movies, and so I think that's what's critical. And what WotC has here in this IP is there is a community of people who have kept this game alive, because if you're nostalgic, you come to the internet, you go looking for Star Frontiers, and you just see a listing on eBay.
Yeah.
That's it. But if you're like, oh wow, there's a community of people here interacting and talking about this game, and there's a Facebook group, and there's, a Discord group, and there's, and there's something for you to interact with, you get involved, and oh hey, I could write an article for that fan magazine, and next thing you know, you're writing articles, and I've got a guy, he wanted to write an adventure, and now his daughter, 18-year-old daughter, is doing Star Frontiers art, and I'm publishing it.
There you go.
And it's great stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is cool. And at some point, she's going to be 40 years old and have kids getting a certain age, and she's going to get a little nostalgic about that game that she played with her father. Yep. And what's going to happen.
Yep.
Okay, because at some point, us 50-year-olds who are the core of the Star Frontiers fan community, we're moving on.
Yeah.
We don't last forever. Mm-hmm. So unless there are new fans coming in, unless this thing gets built, and that's the problem, is WotC's stranglehold is not letting us really try to explore and blow this up in a way that would cause it to perpetually build and have more and more fans. Well, so that 20 years from now, people will be like, Tom Verreault too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess a good way of putting it, and we'll end it like this, is I think you're right. Us 50-year-olds who are the core fan base for this is one of the responsibilities I think that we do have, though, and that is we should introduce it to a younger generation, and you're doing it via your magazine.
Pass the torch.
Absolutely. And that torch is getting passed via your magazine. I know that as a publisher, I'm reaching out, and already have actually, to Wizards of the Coast to say, would publishing modules for Star Frontiers be a proper, allowable thing? If not, okay, but if so, but also the ability to produce Star Frontiers compatible material without using the IP, like what people are doing right now, with D&D.
You have to strip out all of the IP references, and then you could put compatible with.
Yes, and you just make it where it's compatible with it, and maybe get some younger generations picking up even Alpha Dawn, opening up the box and going, what is this? Or one of us going to a local game shop on an open gaming night and bringing Alpha Dawn with you, and people going, wow, what is this? This is a sci-fi role-playing game. I'm going to run it. And you might get that one or two kids that play it and go, whoa. So,
yeah,
let's hope, as they say, right?
Yeah.
So, but Tom, thank you for coming on my show tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I literally woke up from a nap, saw your text, and was like, sure.
I mean, and this is going to be part of what we do on Tuesday nights here. Is next week we're going to talk about the rise and fall of TSR, and we're going to proffer my opinion on what made TSR so popular so quick and what made it fall.
Well, just to clarify, we're talking TSR Inc.
Inc., the original TSR, yes. And I think that, to me, it's a fascinating subject. That's going to be next Tuesday nights, 8:00 live. And we'll see who we have on then. But Tom, again, thank you very much for coming on. This is Tom Verreault. He is the publisher of the new Star Frontiers magazine called
Star Frontiersman Volume 2.
Frontiersman. I got Traveler in my brain. I wrote it down even wrong.
Because I'm a frontiersman.
Yes. So thank you again for coming on. This is Don from Wizard Tower Games signing off, everybody. Just stay gaming, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday.